as the United States and China negotiate over rare earth elements. Russia is forming an industrial cluster in Siberia that has everything, from copper and nickel to those very metals without which a scientific and technological revolution is impossible. And most importantly, the heart of Russia is located at a safe distance from the European borders, which means that strategic enterprises can be placed there without unnecessary risk. We'll talk about this and about a news story of rescue, right after a brief summary of positive news. The second and third phases of the world's largest robotic large panel housing construction plant have been launched in Moscow. A turbine blade plant has opened in the Tula region, a food equipment plant in Ryazan, a complex for the production of complex metal structures in Oryol, and the production of smart metering devices has been expanded in Cherepovets. In the Novgorod region, a pipeline valve production facility has been launched. In the Yaroslavl region, a plant for the production of catalysts and adsorbents. In the Stavropol territory, the production of nitrogen-potassium fertilizers. And in the Tyumen region, the second line of a large paving slab production facility. After China tightened control over the export of rare earth elements this week, Trump restricted software supplies and threatened to impose 100% tariffs on the entire range of Chinese goods. How the new round of trade confrontation will end is still unknown, but the situation once again exposes the main sore spot of the United States, the dependence on imported rare earth elements. And although they are most often associated with weapons production, their most relevant use today is the development of artificial intelligence systems. And America, more than anyone else, has fallen firmly into its trap. The fact is, according to experts' estimates, almost all of the economic growth in the United States in the first half of 2025 was driven by investments in computing power and software. Without them, the economy would have remained almost flat. All the basic sectors, from manufacturing and real estate to services, showed either minimal growth or a decline, and only investments in new data centers pulled the United States out of recession. The problem is that, like any bubble, this one has to keep inflating. That means even more supercomputers need to be built, and even more code needs to be written, which requires new energy capacities and those very rare earth elements that are almost entirely controlled by China. That's why Trump and his team are so nervous. And the rest of the world has become a hostage to the United States-China trade dispute, because if it escalates further, a global recession could begin. But of course, what interests us most is Russia's situation. In Russia, the volume of proven rare earth elements is 28.5 million tons. At the current global consumption level of 300,000 tons per year, these reserves are enough for the whole planet for 95 years, and our own needs are secured for a century. It's not only about the volumes. Extracting and processing the necessary elements into the final product also needs modern technology and significant investment. China's global leadership is precisely due to the fact that it was able to build a complete production chain in advance, from mining ore to manufacturing high-tech products. During the Soviet era, we extracted raw materials in the Union republics, for example, in Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, and processed them at the shale enrichment plant that was built in Soviet Estonia. Now we are correcting the situation. A technology to separate rare earth metals from concentrate mined at the Lavozyrsky mining and processing plant in Murmansk was developed for Rosatom. The plant in Solikamsk already extracts niobium, tantalum, and titanium from its ore. Now, a new plant for extracting rare earth elements is being built there. In Glazov, Udmurt Republic, preparations are underway to build Russia's first major plant for permanent rare earth magnets. Rusal is starting a pilot scandium oxide production at the Bogoslavsky aluminum plant. And that's not all. We are gradually restoring the entire production chain, but it seems that it will be concentrated in Siberia. In Siberia, 90% of Russia's primary aluminum, 80% of copper, 95% of nickel are produced. More than 20% of electricity is generated, and more than 50% of rare earth element reserves are located. The country's top scientific center is also here. For this reason, it was decided to form a rare earth cluster, specifically in Siberia, more precisely in Krasnoyarsk Krai, which will unite mining and processing enterprises, as well as scientific institutes of the macro region. An industrial center for copper and electrical engineering and the Aluminum Valley cluster may also develop between Krasnoyarsk and Bratsk. A center for coal-based plastics production will be built in Kansk, and an advanced coking coal processing center will open in southern Siberia. These plans aren't new. They were discussed before the special military operation, but postponed for understandable reasons. Now, however, new facts speak in their favor, the main one being security. After all, as practice has shown, many Russian factories located along the line up to the Urals are at risk. Therefore, the development of critically important industries in the heart of Russia, in Siberia, seems both logical and timely. However, electricity shortages must also be addressed to achieve this. Therefore, by 2042, it is planned to introduce 5 gigawatts of nuclear capacity here, build the Siberian nuclear power plant, complete the Brest OD-300, and launch 2 more large-capacity fast reactors. Siberia will become a key nuclear region, producing 13% of the country's total nuclear power. Let's add the capacity of hydroelectric power plants and other sources to this. And now the plan for the Siberian Industrial Klondike becomes even more justified. As we've said more than once, Russia has practically all the resources needed for life for many centuries to come. And we don't need to intimidate anyone with sanctions in order to develop. But the main thing, of course, is people.